Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. I'm very happy to be back with the Angel group. It's a global gathering of Dhamma friends, and I believe the last session that we had together, the theme was happiness is dukkha in disguise. I think that was the last theme. So today the theme is the freedom from desires. So I'll offer a few reflections on that, and as Yom Joey was requesting, I'll leave hopefully plenty of time for questions and responses, Dhamma dialogue at the end. So in the Buddha's teaching, and desire is named as the cause of suffering, the cause of dukkha, and so that it's the kind of target, the focus of attention, as being seen as the source of so much difficulty, struggle, suffering in our lives. And so a theme like freedom from desires would seem to represent exactly the same as freedom from suffering, freedom from dukkha. But what I'd like to begin with is pointing out that not all desires are troublemakers. Not all desires are a problem. In fact, some kinds of desire are things that we absolutely need, that they are required as part of our spiritual progress. So I would suggest right from the very title that some desires it's wise to aspire to be free from, and others it's wise to aspire to cultivate, to bring into being. So I'd like to focus on that because it's a common misunderstanding, and that sometimes people feel that every kind of desire, every kind of choice, every kind of setting a direction in our life is somehow wrong or bad or going to cause problems. And many people have asked those sort of questions to me and many other teachers over the years, and I'm sure many of you gathered together today in this session have had those same kind of questions or doubts coming to mind. But to begin with, to sort of set the scene. So the kind of desire that is the troublemaker is tanha in the Pali language, Trishna in Sanskrit, danha, kilet danha in Thai language, and that is also correctly translated into English as craving. The word desire has a range of meanings, and so tanha is a quality of craving. There's always an agitated, self-centered aspect to tanha, and that is very appropriately and repeatedly named as the dukkha samudaya, the cause of dukkha. If that impulse of tanha is followed, then there will be suffering as a consequence of that. The dukkha will be a natural result of that in virtually every single case. That tanha is the cause of dukkha, of suffering, of that feeling of discontent, incompleteness, dis-ease. But the other kind of desire, which I'll get onto later in these reflections, is chanda. Chanda, when it's spelled out in Roman letters, in English letters, chanda, chanda. And so chanda has a very different quality. It's also accurately translated into English as desire, but also it can be translated as interest, enthusiasm, zeal is maybe a rare word, an unusual word, but it represents that kind of quality of, say, focus of attention and energy around a particular theme. So chanda is the other kind of desire, and that's one that we need. That's a requirement for for both our spiritual development, but also getting anything done in our lives. So I'll focus on the difference between these two kinds of desire. So tanha is the kind of desire that it's wise to be free from, to free the heart from tanha. But I would suggest that we do not want to free the heart from chanda. The chanda is the very kind of energy, or the kind of fuel for helping the heart to be freed, for working with the citta, working with our chittai, our heart, our mind, our life, in order to develop the best qualities that we can, and the energy and the direction that is needed to free the heart. So I feel this is a useful theme, and hopefully the things that I say will be meaningful and practical to everybody. So with respect to tanha, that which is the cause of suffering, which is that the Buddha's teaching on the Four Noble Truths focuses right on tanha, craving, self-centered craving, as the cause of suffering. So that has that's always got an agitated personal quality to it. It might not always be spelled out. When we say self-centered, it might seem like, well, that depends on thinking about me, or having ideas about myself or my life or my interests. But tanha is also a powerful force within the animal world. Animals who don't have language, they don't think in terms of an ego or a personal story, but they certainly experience tanha, craving, that an animal hunting its food, it's an animal wanting to compete with say another animal for a mate, or for a food source, or protecting their territory. So when I use language like a self-centered craving, it doesn't have to be built around an idea or a personal story, or any kind of human ego concerns. It can be non-conceptual, non-verbal, and probably all of us have experienced these kinds of craving, tanha, of wanting to get something that we like, wanting to get rid of something that we dislike, wanting to say get somewhere where we'll be feel more secure, getting away from danger. Often those impulses, they don't take shape in terms of words or ideas or ego-centered thoughts. They're what we would call a primal drive, and I would say that's very much driven. The fuel for that is tanha, craving, and upadana, clinging. That these are very much part of the animal world from our ancient biological ancestors, in terms of our evolution as living beings, as living creatures. That is a powerful force in our lives. In terms of the human world, in terms of our lives and our practice to say develop spiritually, to develop the practice of Dhamma, then the Buddha laid out three kinds of craving, three kinds of tanha, in the very first teaching that he gave on the Four Noble Truths and the Middle Way, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the turning of the wheel of Dhamma. He laid out three particular aspects of that quality of craving, which is the kind of desire that is, say, the cause of alienation, difficulty, and dukkha in our lives. So the first kind is that which is most familiar to us, as say is common in the animal world, where for all living animal creatures, large and small, and for us as human beings. So this is kama tanha, the craving for sense pleasure. So the attraction towards food when we're hungry, the attraction towards beautiful visual objects, sounds, smells, physical sensations. So sense, what we would call sense desire. So that's the most obvious kind of craving. So when, say, in the Thai language, when people talk about kilet danha, then it's referring to sexual desire, or desire for food, or desire for money, desire for property, and so that's the most obvious kind, the most sort of visible, tangible kind of craving. And so that when we are beginning to work with our minds with meditation, and we take the precepts and try to live in a way that is wholesome, that is skillful, then that's usually the first kind of tanha, the first kind of craving that we're working with. It's the most obvious and say visible, tangible kind of craving. So that is very important for us to work with, and if it's not understood and not let go of, then it brings many difficulties, a lot of struggle. But the other two kinds of craving, which the Buddha spoke about in that very first Dhamma talk in the deer park in Varanasi, the Dhammacakka Pawattana Sutta, the other two kinds of craving, of desire, they're much more subtle, they're much less visible, but in terms of meditation practice, they can be almost more important than the quality of kama tanha, sense desire. And these two, bhava tanha and vibhava tanha, and those of you who've listened to Dhamma talks by Lumpur Sumedho, Lumpur Cha, or read Lumpur Sumedho's Dhamma books, you'll be very familiar with these, because he speaks, Lumpur Sumedho in particular would speak about these two qualities a great deal, because these are the kind of quote unquote meditators' problems that we can, whereas kama tanha, sense desire, is very obvious, it's kind of highlighted, I want that cake, or I want more money, or I want I'm attracted to that person, I hope she or he likes me. It's kind of visible, tangible, obvious. But bhava tanha and vibhava tanha are much more quiet, they're subtle, they're the kind of like a computer virus or coronavirus. It sort of it comes into the system without you even realizing that you've picked it up. So we have, even still here in the UK, I'm sure in Thailand and the other countries around the world, the USA and Peru and India, and where everyone is gathered, Singapore, KL, still there are measures in place to stop this virus getting in. We can't have face masks, we keep social distancing, have lots of hand sanitizer to stop the virus getting in. So bhava tanha and vibhava tanha are kind of like that. They slip in very, very easily without us noticing them. So it's important to take protective measures to stop the bhava tanha, vibhava tanha virus sort of getting into the system. So when sometimes when these are talked about in terms of classical commentaries or the descriptions of the suttas, they're talked about as a kind of what they would call a philosophical position. So like bhava tanha, like, well, I believe that I want to exist forever, or that I believe I will carry on forever, or called the sasatavada, like that eternalist belief. Or the vibhava tanha is taken to be the uchedavada. I think we when we die we will stop existing. That there's no life after this one. But I feel that's a bit of a misunderstanding and a misrepresentation. And those of you who've listened to Lumpur Sumedho's Dhamma talks will know that it's far more accurate, I feel, and far more helpful to understand that these are not philosophical positions or ideas about the universe or life after this one, but rather it's that the feelings in the heart of bhava tanha is the desire to be something. I want to be recognized. I want to, I should be practicing. I want to get more concentrated. I want to develop insight. I want to be enlightened. I want to free my heart from craving. So that, which might sound like it's the kind of instructions that we're supposed to be following. When I say those words, maybe some of you are thinking, yeah, but I do want to be more concentrated. I do want to develop more insight. I do want to be enlightened. What's wrong with that, Ajahn? And then vibhava tanha, that's the desire to get rid of. So the feeling of, I've got all these defilements, I want to get rid of them. I want to get rid of my kilesas of anger and jealousy. I want to get away from my uncomfortable memories. I want to get my chattering thoughts to shut up. And again, it might sound like, well, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing, Ajahn? Doesn't it say that in the suttas to quieten your distracted thoughts? So that's one of the reasons why bhava tanha and vibhava tanha are such a problem, is because they can kind of disguise themselves as Dhamma practice. But where we recognize that they are an aspect of tanha is I've got a lot of defilements. I need to get rid of them. I own these problems. I'm lustful. I'm fearful. I'm jealous. I've got a lot of chattering thoughts. My mind chatters a lot. It thinks a lot. I've got to get my thoughts to be quiet. They are my thoughts. There's a me who owns them. I've got to get rid of them. If I got rid of them, then there would be me without them. Or I want to be enlightened. I want to develop jhana. I want to have more wisdom. The I ams, I want to, I've got, all of those I have, I've got, I want, I should, that's all bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. It's kind of disguises itself as good Dhamma practice, but the very presence of that I am, I have, I should, I have got, that demonstrates the attachment, the identification, the atta that is there. In one of the suttas called the 5 and the 3, the Panchataya Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta 102, if you're interested, the Buddha spells this out, and he says it might be that someone is sitting meditating, someone who's an accomplished meditator, a practitioner, and the thought arises in them, I am at peace. I am without clinging. I have realized nibbana. And in that sutta, he says, the very way that the mind phrases that, the words the mind uses, demonstrates the kind of clinging that is still there. I am at peace. I am without clinging. I have realized nibbana. So the Buddha is saying, there's the clue. That's the clue that there's still bhava tanha, vibhava tanha going on. And so then that's these subtle kinds of attachment, identification that come into the picture. So in terms of freeing the heart from desires, freedom from desires, certainly to free the heart from kama raga, kama tanha, sense desire, is very significant, very important. But for the meditator, it's almost more important to be paying attention to these sort of quiet influences that are off at the edges of our vision. We can't quite see them, to get them kind of front center so they can be recognized. And again, the many Dhamma talks of Luang Por Sumedho, he points exactly to this. And so I would recommend his teachings and many of his books and Dhamma talks, the different ways of approaching this. And so when we want to free the heart from desire, then one of the things that it is important to do is, if we can learn to recognize bhava tanha, that I-making and mind-making, vibhava tanha, I've got to get rid of. I want to say wipe out these problems. if that kind of craving can be recognized, then we're training the heart to really practice with right effort. And I'll talk about that a bit more. Sama vayamo, because right effort, sama vayamo, is always completely free of I and me and mine. There's no atta involved in the practice of right effort. Every element of the Eightfold Path, the Arya Mark Bert, the Noble Eightfold Path, every element of the Eightfold Path is practiced free of self-view, free of conceit, free of mana, and free of Sakaya Ditti, self-view and conceit. That's why the Eightfold Path leads towards peace. If we're trying to practice the Eightfold Path, but it's like, I need to be more virtuous, I need to better sila, I need to more concentration, I've got to get more wisdom, I've got to try harder. Because of the presence of bhavatanha and vibhavatanha in that, we might be thinking that we're practicing the Eightfold Path, but our very effort is creating more suffering, more dukkha, because of that, the kind of invisible virus, the viruses of bhavatanha, vibhavatanha, these kind of variants, the bhavatanha and vibhavatanha variants on the tanha virus. So that's, I feel, is a very important consideration to bring to mind. And there's various practices that can be used to help focus on those particular qualities. So speaking of practice with right view, then if we haven't understood that, and we think that, and it's very common that people hear, oh, desire is the cause of dukkha, therefore every kind of desire must be a problem. I should stop every kind of desire. So again, as I was saying at the beginning of this Dhamma talk, it's very common for people to think, okay, well, how do I run my business? How do I make decisions? How do we get anything done? If all desires are bad, if desire is the cause of suffering, Ajahn, how do I look after my family? How do I help take care of my grandmother? How do I get to work? If every kind of desire is a cause of suffering, does that mean we're inevitably creating suffering with everything that we do? And sometimes the people misunderstand that, or it's even presented sometimes in Dhamma teachings that any kind of making a choice, any kind of decision making is somehow a defilement, somehow a kilesa, that every action that we take is somehow disturbing the universe. Oh, desire is bad, I shouldn't want anything. So that when you're sitting in meditation, like, oh, I shouldn't move, I shouldn't do anything, I should just watch, I should have non-attachment, I should just watch. And so that then, I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with the word passivity. So that's a kind of trying to switch off, to not do, or to not take action. So passivity means to kind of freeze, to be numb, to not engage. And so sometimes people mistake the principle of non-attachment or of peacefulness, or in nibbana. It's taken as it's understood as meaning we should be completely passive. Anything that we do is interfering with the way things are. If that makes sense. And we shouldn't interfere. Just watch the way things are. Binyang ni eng. This is the way it is. That we should be not unattached. We should just watch the way things are. Just be the observer, be the witness. So people sometimes feel that any kind of doing is disturbing the way things are. It's an intrusion on the way things are. That's in one of T.S. Eliot's poems, is an American poet. He used the phrase, "Do I dare disturb the universe?" Some few of you might be familiar with that. Do I dare? It's in the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, I believe. Do I dare disturb the universe? So I would suggest this is a wrong understanding of peace. our wrong understanding of non-attachment, and that it's not a matter of being passive, or that any kind of action, any kind of decision, or any kind of choice is somehow an intrusion upon Dhamma, upon nature, upon reality, because our ability to choose is part of the way things are. Our ability to act is not separate from the way it is. It's not separate from nature. It's not separate from reality. So, we are, as a living being, we are participating in that reality. We are part of nature. We're not observing nature. We are nature. It's not like the mind is not outside of nature looking at it, but the mind is nature. It is Dhamma. It's part of the way things are. So when we take this kind of mistaken attitude of trying to be passive, or like peace means just watching, be the observer, be the puru, being like, oh, don't do anything, don't engage, just freeze. Then in a strange way, we're doing by not doing. We're taking, if that, I appreciate that might not make sense to a lot of people, but we're taking an action by freezing ourselves. Like, oh, this person is in trouble. This member of my family is upset. I should practice non-attachment. Therefore, I won't help them. I won't engage. And maybe that's an extreme example, but it's the kind of thing that can happen. As we feel, I want to practice non-attachment. Therefore, this member of my family is ill, or somebody is struggling emotionally, or someone is dying, and we feel, oh, I should be unattached. I shouldn't feel anything. And I'm using deliberately extreme examples because when I say those things, something in the citta goes, wait a minute, that can't be right. And I would say, correct, it's not right. Because this is where chanda comes in. This is where that quality of the other kind of desire comes in. So if we don't see that there can be some kinds of desire, some kinds of decision making, some kind of direction that is given to our life, our actions, our words, our thoughts, that is in tune with Dhamma, then we're stuck in this kind of what they call a dilemma. Like when we meet the way things are, if we try to just say ignore the way things are and switch off, be passive, I'm just watching, then that ignoring the way things are creates more suffering. That's we're kind of creating a false disharmony. We're ignoring our own natural relatedness to the way things are. We're cutting off that, what I would call responsivity, or our natural participation in the way things are. It's been cut off by an idea like, I shouldn't do anything, I should be unattached, I should just watch, I should just be aware of this. So that kind of say, ignoring the way things are leads to a dukkha. And then the other kind of extreme is with tanha, is that I don't want it to be this way, I want it to be like that. And we jump in and we try and oppose the way things are to get things to go how we would like, so that we find that the heart is in a contention with the way things are. So that if we become passive, creates more dukkha. If we are getting lost in contention, kind of opposing the way things are, then we create more dukkha. So I would say the middle way, the majjhima patipada, the middle way, and where chanda comes in, is rather than being numb or ignoring the way things are, or contending against the way things are, the middle way, the majjhima patipada, is learning how to work with the way things are. I would say that's the middle. So that working, that effort, if that's in tune with Dhamma, then working with the way things are, working with our life, our mind, our family, our existence in the world, then that work, that effort, those decisions can be all aspects of life which lead towards peace, which lead towards freedom and a clarity within us. Our decision to act and make choices and to change things in the world is not an intrusion upon reality. It's part of reality. As I said, our capacity to act is part of the way things are. So chanda, as I said, is it means enthusiasm or interest, zeal. And so in one of the say collections of qualities the Buddha talked about is called the Iddhipada, the four, in Thai language, Iddhipatsi, the four bases of success, the Iddhipada. So sometimes when the word Iddhi can mean psychic powers, can mean like magical powers. And so sometimes, again, people think, oh, the Iddhi, that's just about being able to fly through the air or read people's minds or being able to look into the past or the future and so on. But Iddhi has got a much broader meaning. It can mean that, which is one small meaning of it, but actually it just means success at doing anything. So the four Iddhipada, like choosing to listen to this Dhamma talk and join in with this angel group session, you needed the four Iddhipada to do this. An example, a very good example of this in the suttas, Venerable Ananda is talking to a Brahmin called Unaba, and he just talks about going to they met up in Gositarama, Gosita's park, one of the monasteries, and Venerable Ananda just uses the example of getting to the park and having this conversation is based on the four Iddhipada. So the four bases of success, they're needed for anything in our life, whether it's joining a Dhamma talk, cooking a meal, achieving full and complete enlightenment, or even robbing a bank is the usual example I give. Whether it's neutral or immoral or moral, whether it's wholesome or unwholesome or neutral, we need those four Iddhipada in order to succeed at anything. So the four are, so the first one is chanda. So that's interest. You had to be interested to join in with this Dhamma talk. There had to be interest. Oh, look, the angel group's got another talk. Okay, I'll have to put that in my calendar. So chanda. Then virya is taking action, actually putting it in the calendar, remembering it's Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening or Saturday morning, depending where on the planet you happen to be. Okay, it's in my calendar. Okay, remember that. And then the third one is chitta, is you have to think about it. Okay, where in the calendar do I put this? Okay, have I copied the link? Did I set it up correctly last time? Did I get the sound balanced? So the first three are chanda, virya, and citta. So we need to be interested, we have to apply energy, and we have to think about what it is that we want to do. So those three work together. Those are like the prerequisite conditions for getting anything done. Again, whether it's cooking a meal, joining a Dhamma talk, working with your mind, or robbing a bank. You have to be interested to rob the bank. You've got to take action in order to do it, and you've got to figure out how you're going to do it. Again, I'm not encouraging anyone to rob any banks, but just as an example. So those three work together. And then the fourth one is vimamsa. So chanda, virya, citta, and then vimamsa. So vimamsa is a Pali word that is not that well known, but it's very important in this because vimamsa is, did it work? Okay, I was interested to join the Dhamma talk. I put some energy into it. I thought about how to join in. Did I actually make the connection? And then what's the result of having made this connection? What did I learn from that Dhamma talk? Was it beneficial? Was it not? What made sense? What didn't make sense? What was the result of that? So vimamsa is what creates the kind of feedback. It's the that sense of looking at the results of what you've done And then that sets a direction for the future. So if you think, oh, this is great, this angel group is really a valuable time. It's really nice to see everybody else on the screen all around the world. Oh, I remember this person and that person. And, oh, he asked a really good question last time. And yeah, this is great. Okay, I will remember this for the next time. So make sure I get the schedule clear for making a note of the next event. Or the opposite. Oh, that was a waste of time. I won't bother with that in the future. Okay, I'll just put my attention elsewhere. So vimamsa is reviewing, looking back at the results of what we've done. So for any kind of effort in our life, if that is, say, carried out free of self-view, free of conceit, free of sakaya ditthi and mana, then the results of that effort will be peaceful. It'll be liberating. And so that if we are working with our mind in the meditation, rather than I've got a lot of kilesas, I have to get rid of them. I have a chattering mind. I've got to get my thoughts to shut up and be quiet. I've got to get more concentration. I want to realize stream entry before I die. Then it's those kind of efforts or interests can be there, but they are free of conceit, free of self-view. So recognition, okay, if the mind has got a lot of kilesa in it, then it's helpful for those kilesas to be recognized and for them to be let go of. It doesn't have to be put into the framework of these are my kilesas, I have got them, I have got to get rid of them, but recognizing these are unwholesome. It's skillful to work to not let these arise. If they have arisen, then it's skillful to let them go. Developing wholesome qualities like concentration or insight, rather than I'm not concentrated, I need more samadhi, recognizing that a concentration is a wholesome quality. The mind is not very focused. Let there be action taken in order for that concentration to be developed. And then has it developed? Yes, the concentration has been developed. Therefore, sustain it, maintain it in being. So then that difference of attitude, where the wholesome and the unwholesome are being recognized, the unwholesome is being restrained or let go of, the wholesome is being cultivated and maintained. All of that work can be completely free of bhavatanna vibhavatanna. That can be free of I and me and mine, that the doeng, the atta, the habits of self-view. In Pali, ahankara, mamankara, I-making and mind-making. So this is how that right effort, or samavayama, right effort, is part of the Eightfold Path. It's work that's being done, direction is being given, choices are being made. This is unwholesome, let go of it. This is wholesome, cultivate it, maintain it. But that's work that's done, that's a direction that's being set, that's a desire, that is a direction and choices that are being made, but it leads towards peace. That Eightfold Path leads towards nibbana, it leads towards peace, it leads towards a genuine quality of freedom. There's a very helpful teaching, another of the prasut, the suttas, where the Buddha speaks about how spiritual development occurs based upon chanda at the very root. This, if you're interested, this is in the Anguttara Nikaya, the numerical discourses, Book of the Tens, sutta number 58 in the usual editions. And what the Buddha says is that he talks about the nature of mind and how to set a skillful direction. So he says, rooted in interest are all things. Chanda mula, all things are rooted in interest, born of attention, the manasikara, So rooted in interest, born of attention, are all things arising from contact, passa, the sense contact. So that this is how the mind, say, creates the impressions of the world, rooted in interest, born of attention, arising from contact. And so that then how we pay attention to things, like paying attention to our computer screens or our iPhones or our tablets or whatever we are all looking at right now. So rooted in interest, born of attention, arising from contact. So then it says diverging into feelings or converging on feelings, Vedana samosarana, converging on all things or diverging into feelings are all things. So when there is, you put your attention on, you're interested, you put your attention onto something, you focus on a sound or a visual form, and then feelings arise, pleasant feeling, neutral feeling, painful feeling. That contact diverges into feelings. So if there's not much mindfulness, if the mind is heedless, if there's just driven by habit, then that feeling easily leads to tanha upadana bhava, to craving, clinging, becoming, and then carried away into jati and sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. Sukha parideva dukkha domana supayasa. So if, however, when that feeling, that vedana arises, pleasant feeling, painful feeling, neutral feeling, then if the mind is, guided in a skillful way, then the Buddha points out that those feelings are headed by concentration, dominated by mindfulness, surmounted by wisdom. So concentration, samadhi, dominated by mindfulness, sati, surmounted by wisdom, samadhi, sati, panya. So if where the feelings of liking, disliking, neutral feeling, then if there's enough concentration, mindfulness, and wisdom, then the result of that sense contact, what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we taste, what we touch, what we think, then it says yielding deliverance as their essence are all things. So that the result of that feeling or that sight, sound, smell, taste, or touch, that idea, when that's held with concentration, mindfulness, and wisdom, then the result of that is vimutti, is deliverance, so that the quality of freedom. And then so yielding deliverance as their essence are all things, merging in the deathless, that is the amata, is the amatogada is the Pali, if you're interested. Merging with the deathless are all things, and terminating in nibbana are all things. So when there is enough samadhi, sati, and panya, when there's enough concentration, mindfulness, and wisdom, then our sensory experience then results in that realization of nibbana, leads towards peacefulness, leads towards freedom. I was explaining this in a book I did recently, and I made a little diagram, and I don't know if people can see, but I'll hold it up. So here is, there you are. Hopefully you can read. So you have rooted in interest at the bottom, is at the bottom of the tree, and then attention is at the foot of the tree. Rooted in interest are all things, born of attention are all things, arising from contact is the trunk, and then where the branches come, that's where the vedana, diverging into feelings. The fruit on the tree, the apples, are yielding deliverance as their essence, and then the branches are, the thick branches are concentration, the thinner branches are mindfulness, and the thin branches right at the end are wisdom. The apples represent the deliverance, and then the space around the tree represents the deathless, and you, the viewer, your mind is where nibbana is found. So this is in a book called Catastrophe Apostrophe, about dependent origination. So you can you can find that on our Amaravati website if you want a copy of the diagram. So you don't have to just memorize it today, but it's on page 137 in this book on the Amaravati website if you're interested in getting your own diagram. It's just a way that I help myself to remember those different qualities, but I feel it's helpful to have that kind of mental image of how the process of sensory experience works, and how it leads towards liberation, towards the realization of nibbana, rather than when there's ignorance, when there's avijja, when not seeing things clearly, then that same perceptual process, contact, feeling, leads to craving, to clinging and becoming and more dukkha and more dukkha. When there's ignorance, it leads to dukkha. When there's awareness, when there's vijja, it leads towards nibbana. Well, so maybe in terms of say reflecting on all of this, then we can see that if we distinguish those two kinds of desire, then you can recognize that more chanda is good. To be really interested in working with your life, that's a good thing. that kind of desire, that interest, that enthusiasm, like that's one of those situations where more is better. It doesn't sound like a very Buddhist statement, but more interest in liberation is better. If as long as that interest is not taken over by I'm interested, I want to be liberated. If it's not say infected with the bhava tanha or the vibhava tanha viruses, those variants, then that interest is exactly what is like the fuel source or the strength that we can draw upon that leads the mind towards liberation. And then we don't need to be afraid of feelings, the feelings that we have of dislike. If we are ill and we have a lot of discomfort, chronic illness or the coronavirus, or physical pain, or emotional pain, then even if there's strong feelings, if they are worked with in a skillful way, that with that interest, that chanda to work with painful feelings, then the mind doesn't have to create suffering. If there's enough concentration, mindfulness, and wisdom, if the samadhi, sati, and panya are there, then even painful feelings in the body or illnesses, even if you're dying, then those feelings can lead towards a quality of liberation. Similarly, pleasant feelings of excitement or sense pleasure, again, if there's enough concentration, mindfulness, and wisdom, then the effect, we don't need to be rejecting or suppressing pleasant feelings that we get from what we see, smell, hear, taste, touch. We don't need to suppress those pleasant feelings, but rather knowing this is a pleasant feeling, this is a beautiful sound, this is a delicious taste. That's all. We don't have to pretend that it isn't delicious, or we don't have to suppress any kind of pleasant feeling, but rather we know this is the experience of a beautiful sound or a delicious taste. This is a lovely smell. These flowers give a delightful feeling. If there's concentration, mindfulness, and wisdom, then the result of that sensory contact is vimutti, is deliverance, and the realization of the deathless and nibbana. Maybe a final story to share, when that Lumpur Sumedho would often tell, as when he was a young bhikkhu at Wat Pah Pong. And any of you who've been to the northeast of Thailand or spent time in forest monasteries there, they're a little bit more comfortable now. They have running water and electricity often. But back in the late 1960s, 50 years ago, Wat Pah Pong was a very, very basic environment. It was deliberately very plain, very, very, very simple say, living conditions. Everyone just had a little kuti. There was no running water, no electricity. The routine was very rigorous. You had the morning bell going at 3 o'clock in the morning. You had one meal a day, eaten from your alms bowl. Everything done in a very formal and proper way. So it was quite a limited and very austere life. They would say 3 months at Wat Pah Pong was like 10 years in another monastery. So it's a very plain and simple environment. And as a young monk, then the bhikkhus and novices, the samaneras, they wouldn't have hardly any contact with the lay community at all, apart from walking through the village on the alms round. And when visitors came to see Luang Por Chah, then other monks and novices wouldn't be close by, might be quite far away. And so that there was very little contact with for the monastic community with lay visitors. On this particular occasion, the teaching staff from Ubon Hospital came to Wat Pah Pong to bring their nursing students to receive a Dhamma talk from Luang Por Chah. And Ajahn Sumedho was the only Farang monk in the whole area at that time, the whole of Ubon province. So he was. People had heard about him or knew of him, that it was kind of amazing to them that an American would become a bhikkhu, and a bhikkhu at Wat Pah Pong. And so once in a while, Luang Por Chah would invite the young Tan Sumedho to come and for people to meet him or to have a chance to talk with him. And on this occasion, he invited Ajahn Sumedho to come and sit with him while this group of the teaching staff and a large number, maybe 50 or 80, 100 student nurses came to Wat Pah Pong, and everyone's in their nursing uniforms, very properly dressed, everyone's sitting very politely. But in an ordinary day, a young bhikkhu at Wat Pah Pong wouldn't be sitting so close to a large number of young women. And so after the group had been there, and Luang Por Chah had given them a Dhamma talk, and they'd all paid their respects and departed, then Luang Por Chah, as in Northeast Thailand in particular, people are very straightforward in terms of talking about feelings of attraction or aversion and the practicalities of life, and the basic sort of forces of desire and aversion and life and death are very easily talked about. And so after this large group of female visitors had come, then Ajahn Chah asked the young Tan Sumedho, "So Sumedho, what did that do to your mind?" He kind of asked him, "Okay, what kind of effect did that have?" And the answer that the young Ajahn Sumedho gave was, in Thai language, was "chop da mai ao," which means "I like, but I don't want." And Luang Por Chah was extremely impressed with that response, because it was not trying to pretend, oh, were there women there? Oh, I didn't notice, like, yeah, he noticed. And, as a heterosexual male living in a very plain and strictly celibate environment, then that would definitely, that would be noticed. But so he noticed, and chok then my ao means I like but I don't want. So yes, there's attraction. Like if you're hungry and there's some food in front of you, the mind goes, oh, that looks edible, that looks interesting. But then my ao, I don't want. So he could see, yeah, there's a feeling of attraction, but it doesn't need to be picked up and followed. The mind doesn't have to make anything of that. There's no interest in pursuing that. So there's the Vedana, but no tanha. There's the sense of, just like if you're hungry and there's some food in front of you, without any kind of defilement, the mind goes, oh, look, food. That interest is a part of nature. And then if there's sufficient mindfulness and wisdom and concentration, then that is just that. It's just a feeling of interest or attraction. The mind doesn't create a whole big story around it, but rather there's that sense of liking, but there's nothing made out of that. So that there's a peaceful result that leads, that sense contact leads to the amatogada, the merging with the deathless, leads to liberation, leads to the realization of nibbana. So I feel that's a very helpful principle to have in mind. You know, I like but I don't want. Chok damai ao. And also at the other end of the scale, you can have my chok, maybe ben panha. You know, I don't like it, but it's not a problem. It's like physical pain. You can't like chronic pain or being ill with COVID. It's not likable, but the mind doesn't have to make a problem out of it. That's a choice that the mind can make. And so if there's enough concentration, mindfulness, and wisdom, then it's not likable, but it's not a problem. And even uncomfortable feelings can lead directly to liberation. So I see that it's nearly 2:30 in the afternoon here. An hour, nearly an hour has gone by already. So I'll open things up for some questions and some Dhamma dialogue for anything that would be useful to speak about. Please, I'll leave Tan Joey to Yom Joey to look after the choosing of questions. Anyone?
We'll move to Kun Rai Ratana first.
I have a question about vimutti. Is it like is it like neutralizing? For instance, if something arises or a feeling arises and then it gets neutralized because we get to recognize it. So which means that any feeling, anything that arises can become non-attachment in that sense because it gets neutralized because of that mindfulness and wisdom. Is that
it depends what you mean by neutralized. It's the quality of freedom is related to the sense of a boundary or a limit, right? And so when the mind is attached to a particular condition, like a thought or a sensation, an experience, then it's limited by that. It's kind of within that boundary. And so vimutti or deliverance is that feeling of, or that recognition of, oh, that sound or that form, that idea, that doesn't really limit the citta. The feeling of a boundary or a limit falls away. And so that there's a sense of, that which knows the experience, that which knows the sight, the sound, the thought, the emotion, is not defined by that, is not limited by that. It's not, that's not, say, something that is solid or meaningful. It's like, so that it's essentially that quality of oh, I thought I was in this box, but there weren't really walls to this box. I could just walk through it. They weren't really solid walls after all. Aha! So it's going from the feeling of limitation, being contained in a box or in a room or within a boundary, to that sense of no boundary or no limit. And so that then it's defining a kind of a change of attitude. And so like any Dhamma terms, like the deathless or nibbana or vimutti, they're words that are pointing to a particular quality of experience. And so vimutti is particularly that sense of, oh, there was a boundary, there was apparently a limitation, but oh, now I realize there never was one. Aha! Like being out of jail or getting out of an aeroplane seat after being kind of stuck for a while. Oh, free space. So that is seeing that what you thought was defining who you are or what's going on, that those definitions were not solid, they were not real, they were not substantial. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Kun Ratana. May I ask Kun Viji?
Hello, Ajahn. Thank you so much for that wonderful talk. Could you please talk more about the process of that mindfulness and concentration? When we have thoughts of or feelings of regret, or regret is an ill will, but still it's needed to avoid getting in the bad situation, or we have to be careful not to do that again. So what is the balance? How do we do that?
Yeah, good question. That is really the area that you're talking about is what we would call a moral sensitivity. So there are these two qualities that you come across in the Buddha's teachings called hiri and ottappa, hiri ottappa. And that is what we, like in English, we would call our conscience, our sense of what is noble or appropriate. It's the source of those feelings of regret, like if you've told a lie, or you've done something that's hurt somebody's feelings that was because you were insensitive or you were selfish. So hiri ottappa, they are it's like your own feeling of recognizing unskillful conduct on your part. Also, it can be the ottappa can refer to like a wise fear of consequences. So like it's like, what if I do this, it's going to be painful. Or also another aspect of ottappa is looking at or experiencing unskillful behavior in people around you. So if someone is being violent or dishonest, that in us which says, oh, that's really awful, or that's a painful thing to do. How can people be that way? So hiri and ottappa, they work by being uncomfortable. That's how they do their job. Like physical pain protects the body, hiri ottappa, they protect the heart. So they're called the lokapala, the protectors of the world, the guardians of the world. But they do their job by being painful. So like fear is an uncomfortable emotion. That's what gets us back from the edge of the cliff, because it's dangerous to be right on the edge. And so fear is get to a place where this emotion stops, and then it's likely that you won't fall off the cliff. Or that if you're standing at the edge of the road waiting to cross, and you're waiting for the traffic to ease off so that you can cross, it's like that fear of being hit by a car. It's like, yeah, it's useful. Otherwise, you might get hit by a car. You might fall off the cliff. So, like fear and physical pain, hiri ottappa, they work by being unpleasant. So, where they become problematic and turn into a kind of toxic quality is where that bhavatanna and vibhavatanna come into the picture. That I am a bad person, I'm really awful, I can never be forgiven, that was a terrible thing that I've done. And so then those feelings of I and me and mine come into the picture. So that's when the painfulness of hiri ottappa, it's then taken over by those habits of self-view and I-making and mind-making. So then it becomes a problem. Yeah. So in itself, hiri ottappa, that in a way it's also more is better, and that for someone who's spiritually mature, like a stream enterer or an anagami, sakadagami, people that or an arahant, they have very, very high levels of hiri ottappa, so that it's anything that is even slightly off, slightly selfish or insensitive, then it's really felt very, very strongly. And so the more spiritually mature that we are, the stronger the hiri ottappa. So rather than thinking, I never want to feel guilty, I never want to feel critical of my behavior, it's like that's an unskillful, unhelpful direction to go in. That's going more towards passivity and numbness. That's not helpful. So what we're doing is learning to use that painful feeling. Like, okay, that was poorly done. I wasn't very honest there. I said that wasn't really quite true. So this regret that's here, it's useful. It doesn't, but it's useful, particularly as long as it's not taken over by I'm a bad person. What will they think of me? I'll never get over this. All of that eye making and self-based thinking, that's unhelpful. So if that is let go of, then the Hiriyottapa helps to guide our skillful action in the future. Like remembering, I spoke in that way. Here's this painful result. And therefore, without it saying or creating the idea, I made a mistake. I'm a bad person. I'm never going to do that again. Just letting the pain of that action speak for itself, that guides our choices in the future. And in a way, the more wordless, the better. Like having acted in that unskillful way, how does it feel? Ow! Just let the ow have its effect, and then when a similar situation comes up and you find yourself bending the truth for the sake of a good story, then you don't even have to think, I don't want to go there. On a very intuitive, natural level, you remember, the body remembers, ow. So it makes it that much easier to not go that way. And it's not a concept. It's not that, I decided I wouldn't do that, therefore I won't do that again. It's just, that they're on a very non-verbal, intuitive level, the mind does not go in that direction.
Thank you.
It's an ongoing process for all of us. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Thank you for your question, Kun Viji. Next question from Kun John Mark Story.
Hello. Thank you, Ajahn Amaro, for helping us negotiate the minefield of desire and a proper approach to desire. I was very intrigued when you started talking about the 4 factors of success, and you mentioned vimamsa, and this element of reflection. Could you say a little bit more about this? Because I think there's a word gati in Pali, or bias. It's the word for bias. Is this the way to acquire wisdom and to avoid bias?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I hadn't thought of it exactly like that. Yeah, agati is the word for bias.
Agati, yes, sir.
So you have 4 biases. So you have raga, passion, or dosa, aversion, and moha, delusion, and then the 4th one is bhaya, fear. So fear is not a intrinsically unwholesome, but it's a bias. As those of us who have anxiety have a tendency to worry and be anxious about things, that it's not a kilesa, it's not a defilement, but it's an agati, it's a bias, so that the mind's tendency to be worried about things and be anxious about things, it's not on the same as greed, hatred, and delusion. It's not a intrinsically unwholesome, but it bends, it distorts the mind's vision of the world in a way that has painful results. So vimamsa, it's really the chemistry of the feedback process, because often, if in terms of taking action, so like for example, maybe you've been a very dedicated, I don't know you, but just by way of imagining, so say you've been a dedicated meditator for 25 years. So I think anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, this is really excellent practice. That's what I should be doing. My teacher told me that's the best practice for me. So this is how you do mindfulness of breathing, and I do this every day for an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, every day for the last 25 years. And so this is my practice. This is, and so I'm dedicated to the practice. So without vimamsa, we might not notice that. Yes, we've been very dedicated. We know how to do it. We put energy into it. We're interested in it. But if we're not looking at the result, we might not notice that. 25 years of mindfulness of breathing. What's the result of that? Is it actually making me a better person? Am I easier to live with, or am I more difficult to live with? Do I feel at peace? Do I not feel at peace? What's the result of this? So we can be very dedicated with the chanda, virya, and citta driving forward, but the vimamsa is like, well, where has this taken me to? or maybe a less sort of spiritual example, rather like driving a car. And so maybe, I mean, there was an example from a number of years ago where someone who wasn't familiar with the motorway system was trying to drive from London to Liverpool, and he got onto the M25, and he was driving for hours and hours around. The M25 is 200 miles long. It's the loop, the loop motorway all around London. He was trying to get to Liverpool, and he got onto the M25, and he thought he was heading in the right direction, but he did about 3 or 4 laps of the whole of the M25, 600 miles, 800 miles, and thinking, I must be getting to Liverpool soon, because I've been driving for so long. But he wasn't reading the signs that were saying that you just passed the Dartford crossing for the 3rd time. That this is you're going around in a big circle. So yes, he was driving safely with diligence, but not reading the signs. He didn't realize, I'm on the wrong road, and this road is never going to take me to Liverpool because it can only go round and round London. So that vimamsa is reading the signs and responding to what the signs tell you. So if you see the sign for the Dartford crossing, junction 20 for Hemel Hempstead for the 3rd time, then that's the clue, I'm going around in circles. And so, that vimamsa is reading the signs and then being guided by what the signs say. That, okay, the signs, they're saying Birmingham, they're saying Manchester, they're saying Liverpool just up ahead. Okay, I'm on the right road. There's the signs for Liverpool. That's where I want to get to. If they're saying Leeds and then Edinburgh and then Aberdeen, it's like, no, I've taken a wrong road. I'm not heading towards Liverpool. I'm up in Scotland. I've lost my way. So the vimamsa is that, in a way, taking a step back and saying, okay, what was the result of that? I put this effort in. I'm really interested. I've been following the instructions as far as I know. What's the effect? Where has this led? Is this being helpful? I've told myself this is what I should be doing. I'm telling myself this has got a good result. Is that the fact? So in a way, it's related to skillful use of doubt and questioning, and so it's in a way also related to sati sampajanya, mindfulness and full awareness, where you're looking at a broader picture, not just focused on the one action that you're taking, so with kind of more mechanistic mindfulness, but is looking at the broader picture. Okay, I'm driving well, I haven't had an accident, I've been filling up with petrol, and I'm respectful for the other cars on the road, but am I getting to where I want to get to? What's the result of my effort? And then there's a certain degree of honesty is important in that, because I've invested so much in this, and I've told myself this is valuable and good. I can't be wrong because I put so much into it. So that's a recipe for suffering. I lived in the USA, in California, for a long time, and there's a Native American saying, which is I used to quote quite often, which is, when you no matter how far you've gone down the wrong path, when you find out, turn back. Don't be embarrassed that you've gone hundreds of miles down the wrong track. That it's far better to recognize I took a wrong turn there. Okay, turn around, go back and try again.
Yes, this element of self-reflection. I'm a lecturer at a local university. Sorry, I didn't say I'm from Sabah, Borneo. I'm a lecturer, and of course, teachers and lecturers are always invited to reflect. Self-reflection is something we give lip service to it. You get to the end of the semester or whatever, and you have to fill in all these forms, all this bureaucracy. And then right at the end, it says there's an element or form for self-reflection. And most people go, phooey, self-reflection. I ain't got time for that. But that's the most important part.
Yeah. Sabah, where Ajahn Amaro was living in the Peace Corps before he went to Thailand. He spent 2 years there in Semporna.
Yes, I know it well. Yes, it's we have a good lineage here. We have a very good Theravadan lineage here. following Ajahn Chan as well, of course. And Bhante Mahinda is our spiritual leader from Aloka Foundation, who are big in, I don't know if you've heard of Aloka Foundation, they're big in Australia. But of course, they're built on Ajahn Chan's lineage. So thank you for answering my question. I don't want to dominate the proceedings anymore. Thank you. Very enlightening.
Thank you, Kun John. So Kun Nari sent us a message, and her question was, I have difficulties doing loving kindness sitting meditation, Ajahn. I can only send metta to myself for a few minutes. Then I will lose concentration. Can you help, please? Thank you.
I don't know. One of the things with loving kindness meditation is it can be a bit, it can be picked up in a technical way. Just the idea of metta, or just repeating words like may I be well, may I be happy, may others be, may they be well, may they be happy. So with metta, what I try to encourage is to begin by establishing that feeling of benevolence or well-wishing, and kind of in a way using as few words as possible, and just cultivate, going to like focusing on your heart, to bring attention to your heart, and to the extent possible bring into being that sense of well-wishing, a kind of warmth, a friendliness, towards yourself, towards this being, and to spend a good amount of time, and you can use the mindfulness of breathing, you can use the flow of the breath to help establish that, just focusing on the heart center, and feeling the breath coming and going at your heart, and then just taking the air in, and then say and just having that, so breathing in the air and using that in-breath to generate that sense of may I be well, may I be at ease, may this being be accepted and appreciated. But as I said, very few words necessary, more just using the breath to focus on the heart and cultivating that sense of friendliness towards this being, a friendliness and a benevolence, a well-wishing. And so if we focus more on the actual quality of metta, the felt sense of metta, rather than just the idea of the beings that I should be friendly towards, then with that, it's like kind of getting the fire going. You've got the fire is the light, and the fuel is burning, and then once that kind of torch, the fire of metta, is alight, then that can be more effectively sustained to spread within this life and then to others.
Thank you.
I hope that helps, but I can't guarantee that. But that would be what I would recommend.
We have another question coming in from the chat function from Chun Wai, and he or she says, "Good day, Thanajan. As laymen, inevitably we will be exposed to things that lead to sexual enjoyment, like good food, good bed, good sofas. How do we enjoy these things but not to get hooked by them?"
Is that sensual enjoyment?
Sensual, yes. Sensual.
Well, practice. Just to see, taking that principle that I mentioned of I like but I don't want, to be able to just appreciate that feeling without adding anything to it. If you want one very good way of experimenting with this is with food. And so when we're eating, particularly if you're eating by yourself, it's a bit more difficult if you're with other people, because you tend to be talking and engaging. But if you're eating something, and something that you usually find delicious, a very simple technique is, say, if you have a spoon or a fork, just put in one mouthful of food and then put the spoon down. or the fork. Yeah, and you don't have to eat in slow motion. You don't have to chew it 100 times. Just eat in an ordinary way, but just put the food in your mouth. Put the fork down, or the spoon down, or the chopsticks, whatever it might be. Put them down, and then just pay attention to what you're eating. Because often, particularly if something's delicious, you've got a mouthful of food. You've got the spoon. The spoon is already lined up with the next, the next wave, and your eye is on the plate looking for the one after that. So you've got 3 things happening at once. So that you're not really paying. And the more delicious it is, the more excited you get, and the more carried away. So what easily happens if it's really delicious food is that before you know it, you're looking at an empty plate and like, what happened? Where did it go? I better have some more because I missed that last lot because it was so good. So better have seconds. So if you don't follow that, but just take a mouthful of food, put down the chopsticks or the spoon or the fork or whatever, knife and fork, put them down, then simply pay attention to what's in your mouth. Then it's a way of breaking up that becoming urge. And even if the mind is saying, "Oh, wow, this is really delicious," it's not following on with getting another mouthful. It's not following that kind of greedy, sort of leaning into the future habit, but rather it's more able just to be with this experience, this taste, and to know it. So it's enjoyable, but you're actually with it by paying attention to the experience as it is, not getting excited with thoughts about it, but you're just knowing it as it is. Then the mind is more able just not to get carried away or get lost by that. So it's a very simple practice, but it's astonishing how much of a difference it can make. And then with other things, with like listening to music or other kinds of sensual enjoyment, then you can similarly just bringing the attention to the present experience and not letting the mind get lost about it, because that's one of the ironic and tragic things, is that particularly the more kind of perfect a sensory experience is, the more the mind gets excited about it and wants to keep it, and then you end up spoiling it by your very effort to keep it. Again, quoting another English poet, William Blake, as a particular poem, a very short poem he wrote that I often quote, which is, "He that binds himself to a joy doth the winged life destroy." If you tie yourself to something joyful, then you destroy it. It's something beautiful. He that binds himself, ties himself to a joy, doth the winged, like life with wings on, the kind of life that's alive and flying like a bird, you destroy it. But he that kisses a joy as it flies. If you kiss the joy as it flies, not a very monastic image, but it's there in the poem. If you kiss the joy as it flies, like you're not trying to keep the bird or hold it, but you just sort of kiss it as it flies past, then it says, then you live in eternity's sunrise. Like that's where you feel real joy and happiness, like kissing the joy as it flies, rather than trying to capture it and keep it and hold it, own it. So that there's a contact, there's an appreciation, but there isn't that grasping and owning and holding. And so often we can't do that. But if we recognize, okay, I tried so hard, I wanted to keep that and hold that, what's the result? Disappointment. It's the kind of, yes, it was so good, it was so special, but my eagerness to keep it and hold it and own it ended up ruining the whole thing. And then just that, like I was talking about Hiriotapa, just letting that painful feeling be known. Okay, this is the result of trying to keep and own, have that beautiful sunset or that beautiful taste or that trying to repeat that wonderful meal at that restaurant. It's like this, ow. Just let that ow have its effect. And similarly, if you have a beautiful experience, a delicious food at a particular place, or a sweet evening with your friends, and think, well, that was great. Maybe it'll never happen again. Okay. That was beautiful. That retreat was lovely. That food was delicious. That's a beautiful place, a perfect day on the cliff with that beautiful sunset. Okay, maybe never again. Okay, but there was that one moment that was sweet. And then look at the result of holding it that way. Like, okay, how is that? Delightful. So then from direct experience, there's a recognition of the result of clinging and not clinging. And so again, it's not an idea, it's not a concept, it's the effect of the directly appreciated experience itself. So I see the time has gone to 3 o'clock here in the UK, so I guess 10 o'clock in Thailand, and we should
Yes.
wrap things up.